Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Nick and Jeff show. I'm Nick, and joining me is my boy, Jeffrey.
I don't think he says boy, does he?
I don't think he says boy the entire game, but if it hasn't given it away, this week we're going to talk about God of War Ragnarok. Why are we waiting till now, Jeffrey?
Game of the year, 2022.
Runner-up.
Runner-up.
Why are we waiting?
I think it is better than Elden Ring.
You do? Oh, good. I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about that at the start or later on, but you do think it's better than Elden Ring?
Well, like it's more fresh. It's fresher in my mind, and it's shorter, but it's still they're both long.
They are both very long games
with both of them have optional areas that yeah, the player might not ever see this.
Yep.
Well, let's make it gigantic anyway.
You're talking about the crater?
Yeah, the crater.
Well, fair warning before we get into it, we are going to go full spoilers. All bets are off, so if you haven't played the game or finished the game or you don't want spoilers, abandon ship now, but still subscribe.
Yep, we're going to spoil everything.
Spoil everything. So, with that in mind, let's go. I've got a good topic list, or a big topic list. I don't know if it's a good topic list, but it's a big topic list. So let's go. Jeffrey, what did you think of the opening of God of War Ragnarok?
Nick, the opening was so long ago because I played it when it came out in November, and then I immediately got. I think I fought Thor. Maybe I got to Sindri's house. I can't remember, and I'm like, cool. I'm off to Japan now.
Yep.
I'm not going to play this game for another 40 days. So I've forgotten everything that happened in the opening. Actually, from memory, Thor and Odin showed up. Something must have happened at the start, but Thor and Odin showed up at the house.
Yeah. And
I thought that was like a really tense conversation.
Okay.
Because obviously it felt like, from memory, Kratos knew, like, oh my god, this is Odin. Like, I need to be extremely careful with what I say and how I act.
Yeah, he knew who he was.
And in my mind...
Yeah.
And in my mind, Loki's like, yeah, well, Atreus is like, yeah, come on, look, we can take him. I don't know. And then a big fight happens.
Wow, it's even further back for me, but I guess, I don't know, I guess it stuck in my mind a little bit more. I liked I thought Freya attacking them at the start was very sort of...
Oh, yeah.
Starting from 0 to 100 very fast, and then slowing down to very, very slow for that.
Was that the opening of the game with the wolves?
Yep. And then
she was attacking them on the wolves?
Yep. And then you get back to your house, and that's when Atreus puts the wolves to sleep and lets his soul rest or whatever, and takes him out. And I was just like, I remember watching that bit at the start, and I started crying, and Kima's sitting in the corner. I'm like, come here, my boy, I just need to pat you. So it was very, very emotional start, and then to have Odin and Thor rock up, but be so passive. I wasn't expecting them to be like that. Odin or Thor comes in and puts his Mjolnir down, and they have the conversation, and then Odin's at the door, and
I immediately think of Thor as
Hemsworth.
Who's the purple dude from Avengers? Thanos.
Yes. Well, really?
I can't picture that. I think it's a different voice actor,
right?
Or an actor or whatever. But in my mind, it sounds like, is it Josh Brolin?
Yeah. It wasn't Josh Brolin.
Is he Thanos? It sounds like him to me.
Oh, right. Okay. That's weird. I mean, maybe your brain was tying that up with Avengers and Marvel. I don't know. But then Kratos and Odin had their fight at the start, which was seemed very much very similar to
Kratos and Thor.
Oh yeah, sorry, Kratos and Thor. Kratos and Thor had their fight at the start, which is very similar to the Stranger showing up, or Boulder showing up at the start of the first game.
Because I sort of replayed the start of 2018 recently.
Yeah.
I thought it was very familiar. I sort of was expecting that. They developers say, well, 90% of players don't finish the game. Put the coolest stuff at the start, right?
Yep.
And so I was kind of expecting a repeat of that awesome fight.
Yeah.
Of that sort of level of action. And it didn't disappoint.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
You're flying everywhere.
And then shortly after that, you go on a hunt, and he's like, yeah, deer's this way. Atreus knows what he's doing now. But then, were you expecting Atreus to be the bear? Do you remember you fight the bear?
Not at first. Definitely not at first. And then I think, getting further, as I was fighting the bear, I'm like, oh, this is Atreus, isn't it?
Oh, really?
And then I figured that out.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It didn't click
But
on
it wasn't straight away. I think it was while I was fighting him.
Oh, okay. So it didn't click onto me until like after he transformed back. I'm like, oh no! I was just like brutally like, oh, fuck this bear, and like stabbing him and like hitting him with the axe and everything. I'm like, yeah, get this damn axe, But yeah, I wasn't expecting that. And then from there, you're pretty much, I guess you're pretty much off, aren't you?
Yeah, I think you're off in adventure, and I think I felt kind of overwhelmed because you had the axe and you had the Blades of Chaos at the same time. Like, you had access to a lot of stuff, and then they both added this new charging mechanic as well.
Yep.
And this is before I left on holidays, and I felt like, oh man, there's just like it's too much to go around. Like, I kind of wish they did like the opening segment where you just had one weapon, and then you got the other. Like, do it soon. Yeah. But I just felt like you had access to everything straight away, and I was just like, oh, my mind can't keep up with this much stuff.
Yeah, fair. I totally get what you mean. Yeah, when you start up, because if you haven't played the first one in a while, you already have the axe and the blades, and so you're right. It's probably a little bit overwhelming, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like, what better way could they do it? Like, maybe when Odin shows up, the blades are like hanging on the wall, and so Odin takes them, and so you don't get them for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, and so then it like gives you a bit of time to remember getting used to the axe a little bit first. That would have been maybe a good way to do it.
It was so much so like I just wanted to use the axe probably for like the first couple of hours. Like, I'm like, nah, I don't care about the Blades of Chaos. I just want the axe. unless the enemies had an ice shield or whatever. Like, I totally used the axe the majority for the first couple of hours because it was just still so much fun.
Yeah, I think I did the same thing, and unless there was like some sort of ice enemy, I was using the axe as well. But for most of the game.
And did you notice, Nick? You always the frost axe always got the power up first. Like, the Blades of Chaos were always like a level behind.
Oh, it was like that.
Did that happen to you?
It was like that for maybe like the first half of the game for me, and then the Blades of Chaos were upgraded to level 9, and I think my axe was still level 6 or 7 towards the end.
Whoa!
Yeah, maybe just
we must have done different things.
Maybe just running off doing different stuff. But I'm looking at my topic list now. It's not overly in order, like the next one after the opening, and like there's a croc jumping out of the water, and I added that to my list because I absolutely crapped my pants.
Yeah, you were with Freya, I think, and I presume you were with Freya.
Yeah,
maybe this is a different part.
No,
but you're like, I remember this one segment. Like, how come I can't interact with the boat yet? Like, that's weird.
Yeah,
and I had to wait for her to catch up, and then the two crocs came out.
Yes, I think that's the same bit that I was talking about as well. When like go into the boat, I'm like, get in the boat, and I absolutely crapped myself. I don't know. Did it get you as well? Like, that was the only part of the game that
it definitely did. I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't expecting it.
I wasn't sure. Like thinking about how many people that would get, but man, I've just finished the Callisto Protocol today, and that game did not make me jump once, I don't think, in the 12, 13 hours it took me to finish. But the God of War made me jump with that crocodile coming out the water. It scared me real good. Now, what else can we talk about? Like, how did you feel about Atreus transforming into the wolf for the first time? I thought like that was super cool.
It was pretty cool. Honestly, I can't really remember too much, but what I do remember is every time you're with you're Atreus and then you're with another partner.
Yep.
They would comment on your transformation as you go into like rage mode,
Yep.
And I thought that was really fun and neat.
Yep.
And like, especially with Thor, I was like, haha, good boy, look at you go. Oh, that's a fancy trick. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, like. So it's weird because it was Angrboda.
Yes,
Angrboda. She helped him control his wolfness.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, I think. Well, it's funny how they've sort of taken elements from traditional Norse mythology lore and sort of put it into the game. Because Angrboda, I'm pretty sure like Loki marries her, and like has some kids with her or something, and then they get divorced or he kills her or something like that. As far as like the traditional lore goes.
I've been thinking about Norse mythology and looked at quite a few YouTube things lately. I'm like, all this stuff, is it like Jesus made up religion? Did it happen? Like, is it Greek mythology? Like, how does all this stuff very mythical things sort of
Yeah.
like happen and have all these source materials that are different and not different. Like, it's kind of insane, right?
Well, I mean, you think about it. Imagine if, I don't know, like J.R. Tolkien was...
Where's the Jesus game? There is one. But...
Yeah, I can't wait to play it. But imagine if, like, J.R. Tolkien was alive 3,000 years ago and he wrote Lord of the Rings. Like, Legolas and Aragorn, they'd all be considered some form of gods, I guess. But I recently bought a Norse Mythology book, and yeah, I talked to my dad about it, and he's like, I was like, it's essentially a 3,000-year-old Bible. It's a Bible from 3,000 years ago, which is kind of accurate. Okay, I want to get to a big...
I find it really fascinating. I find it really fascinating. Nick, I think we're going to talk about Angrboda, that whole section.
Yeah, we'll talk about that whole section. Was it Jotun? Is it Jotunheim?
Yeah, it's in Jotunheim. So I think Loki's done something bad. Maybe, I don't know. He went to bed to cry because he's an angry teenager.
Yeah.
I think. Maybe. I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
But it was in Sindri's house. And then all of a sudden he's dreaming. And then he literally gets teleported to Jotunheim.
Yes.
Just out of nowhere.
Yes.
Right? I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And then we meet Angrboda and what's the yak's name? I like the yak.
I don't know. I don't remember the yak's name.
But like that whole section was like, oh, I'm playing as Atreus again, and it was not combat orientated. I don't know, it was interesting, but the whole time I'm like, I just want to be Kratos again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The first time was like, cool. This is novelty.
Yep.
Like, cool. I'm playing as Atreus. That's something different. I'm with Sindri, but this time, I think this might be the second or third time you play as him.
Yep.
And it was a long... I reckon it's like at least 2 hours. It was a long time.
It did feel... I agree. I think it was like just on the line for me of overstaying its welcome, and I really wanted to get back to Kratos. But I think I told you I listened to a spoiler cast of my own where they had the director of the game on, and they said that they wanted to have the game be like 20-25% of the time you play as Atreus, and I think it worked out to be that sort of in the end anyway. Maybe like 10 hours worth of Atreus stuff. And did you like playing as him sort of by the end, or?
It was fine. I think towards the end you got a lot of slowdown powers. Like if you dodged in time or aimed in time, or if the enemy was in the air in time would slow down so you could shoot.
Yeah.
I think I sort of missed doing all of those, really. Like, I got a few, but it wasn't really my focus. And because Atreus' skill tree doesn't have the incentive to, do this activity or action
30 times,
10 times, or 20 times or whatever, I probably didn't play that way as much. And I sort of got the feeling, like, because you swap between Atreus and Freya, I'm like, maybe you stop playing as Atreus towards the end of the game, and clearly the post game you don't. Yeah,
were you expecting? I mean, are we jumping ahead a bit there? But like, were you expecting to Atreus to just straight up leave at the end?
I felt like that's fine. I actually thought some of the post game he might come back.
Yeah.
But and then you were saying do the funeral last. I'm like, oh, and I really did do the funeral last, and I thought he might come back. But that didn't happen.
Yeah.
He just sort of kind of left.
Do you reckon, do you think we'll get some sort of Ragnarok DLC, or there'll be like a God of War with just Atreus?
I would love that, but I think they might also just go, cool, let's leave it up in the air, right?
Yeah.
And there was no DLC for the first
That's right.
2018 God of War.
Yep.
Has there been DLC for any other God of War? This is before DLC was really big.
Oh, you make a good point.
But then, Horizon's getting 2 spin-offs, right? The VR thing and a DLC expansion.
I think that's because they're desperate.
Like, and then, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe gets DLC 8 years later. So,
maybe.
So anything can happen.
I don't know. I think in, 3 years' time, we'll see an Atreus game. I guess God of Mischief. What is Loki the god of? I mean...
He's the god of mischief.
Well, traditionally...
Well, according to Marvel lore.
Yeah. But then, or I guess The Mask with Jim Carrey. But maybe also like the god of animals or something, or god of magic, god of illusion.
One spoiler cast I did watch, it was an IGN one, and then someone asked, was The Mask inspired by Jim Carrey's The Mask? And he's like, no. But yes.
This I
Which Nick, the mask, there's no answers
yeah
for whatever the mask and the rift is.
yeah. What was on the other side? Who knows? How did actually? I want to talk about. I mean, I know we're sort of jumping all over the place, and there's not really a rhyme or reason to it. But what did you think about Odin as a character throughout?
You know, I like that he was an older man.
Yeah.
I guess. Or I guess he's always an old man.
Yeah.
But he seemed real like chill.
Yeah.
Like hey, I'm just a father. I know I'm up to no good, but like I just want to talk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I really like that, and especially when he's next to Thor, he's like, I'm the brute, drunk, strong man, like, and Odin's just calm.
Yeah.
And every time you meet Odin, I feel like it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I liked the tour of when Atreus is with Odin in Asgard.
Asgard. Yeah.
And you're just warping around to different places.
Yep.
And I thought that was really neat.
Yes.
Like that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then he just sort of went mad scientist. I feel like
It wasn't sort of really until the end there. Yeah. But I agree.
Like, yeah, he was real chill.
Yeah.
Until the end.
I agree. I know the face of the actor. He was in like The Good Doctor and a few other things I've seen him in. But as soon as I heard his voice, I was like, oh, it's that guy. But I feel like his presence on screen was really. He still felt powerful and intimidating, but calm. But still, like you just know he had some sort of master grand plan, and he's just kind of using you. And he's like he's very cunning and very clever, and still But his whole presence on screen, I'm sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm like, when's he going to attack me? When's he going to? But he stayed chill the whole time up until the end, and I thought it.
Did you like the final battle? It was the final battle.
Yeah,
yes.
it did feel
against Odin.
It did feel very like, oh, this is a video game. Here's your final boss. We have to make it epic type of thing.
Yeah, I thought it was fun when you had the three of them.
Yeah,
going up on him.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. But the prophecy. Did you see the prophecy coming the way it was? Because when Odin like falls into.
Explain more.
So the wall art that they looked at from the first game that had what appeared to be, it looked like Kratos.
Yes, I have a problem with the whole wall art thing, but yeah, keep going.
But it looked like Kratos in Atreus' arms, and so everyone assumed like, oh no, does Kratos die at the end of Ragnarok? Oh my god! And the whole time you're playing the game, you're like, is Kratos gonna die? And I was like, and I'm just like, oh, keep my mouth shut. And then to have Odin fall into Atreus' arms and Atreus do whatever spell he does to take out the soul, because they zoomed out on the shot and it was Atreus holding Odin in his arms, and
so the prophecy of Kratos dying, it wasn't Kratos, it was Atreus. Oh, sorry, it was Odin
it was Odin
Atreus' arms. Oh,
and you go back.
Okay, I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't picture that. That makes sense.
Oh, right. Well,
I've turned around.
Yeah, you go back and look at the mural, and I'm like, oh, you're right. It's not quite Kratos, because you look at Kratos on a few other murals, and you're like, yeah, he looks different. Like, oh yeah, that's definitely, yep. There
was never a time where they stood still on the murals, right? Like you couldn't like screenshot. It was always like sort of moving, and so to me, because I didn't look at anything until I finished the game, like I couldn't really tell, and I'm like, where's the snake coming out of Kratos, or like that prophecy never happened, but you're right, it was the soul.
It was the soul
of Odin coming out.
Yep.
And now it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And I also, speaking of the souls coming out, I love the part of, at the start of the game where you see, because there's they say there's 4 pieces of the soul, and when Atreus,
yes, and then poor old Brok's only got 3.
yeah, but when Atreus releases the wolf's soul, you see 3 fly off, and one part of the soul flies into his knife, which he then shoots into the hell dog, and I'm like, oh, that's how he gets his dog. I was like, but you don't like.
Yeah, I remember the soul being released, but I can't remember the part. So only one part of the soul was in the knife.
From what I saw because I watched it a second time, I'm like, oh, you can see it, but like you have no idea. You have no idea until then later on in the game when it happens.
It's a good payoff.
Oh my god.
See,
is it?
It's just like every comic book thing. You're like, no one's ever truly dead. They just come back in a different form and they reset. So the wolf dying at the start, it tugs at your emotional heartstrings, and they're like, oh, he's back. He's just bigger now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm so glad that he came back, and like now Fenrir, and he has a home, and he's a big doggo, and he's alive, and you didn't have to kill the big wolf, and loved Fenrir being there.
What did you think of Atreus and Kratos' relationship? The entire game.
I thought it was great. I didn't think they. I thought it might be like with the last game they ended on such a great dynamic, and they sort of came full circle, and they felt like they were partners and working together, and a whole father and son thing, and not Kratos treating him like so much a child anymore, but he's still in this one. He's trying to be a dad, but he respects him a lot more, and they still butt heads on things because Atreus is a teenager and he's growing up, and he now has his own opinions and stuff. But I thought the dynamic was so much better. I don't think they went too far back with them clashing, and you see Atreus grow and change as a character. And I was worried I'd hate him in the second one as well, but I think I loved him even more than the first game. Especially by the end.
I think what I like is Kratos a lot of the time was like, okay, I've got no idea what the hell you're on about, but I will do it your way, right?
Yeah. And
we did it your way twice. It didn't work. Now we'll do it my way because I'm the dad and I know better. And then they sort of work each other out, and they're like, we're better as a team, Dad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then Atreus being just general teenage angst, I guess, is like, well, you didn't listen to your father, and now you're being punished for it. Like, you disappeared. You won't tell him what's going on. Like,
yeah.
How is Kratos meant to trust you? I don't know. I thought they did really well, actually.
I think they did so well. But also, it wasn't this time around. It wasn't just Kratos and Atreus. How did you feel about having different companions throughout the whole game? Because I thought that was fantastic, and the fact that you got to rebuild your relationship with Freya.
Yeah, because I kind of I forgot that you were friends with Freya in the first game, and Freya saves, I guess, Mimir and Atreus.
Yeah,
I kind of forgot all about that. And when Freya, like at the start of the game, Freya's hatred is so strong against you, like you want to hate her.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh man, like. Now I'm with Freya, and she, like, when you think about it, Nick, every exploring area can be done with Freya or
Atreus.
Atreus.
Yep.
Like, they're like, that's a lot of dialogue that we've missed out on in some way or another.
Yeah.
Because they'd be different.
Yeah,
right?
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, completely interchangeable. But I also,
but Freya seems like Freya's a main character more than... Actually, here's something, total tangent, Nick.
Yeah.
Did you expect the two dwarves to be main characters? And before you say anything, get this, Resident Evil 4 remake is coming out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, guess what? The merchant is now a main character.
Oh, really? As in like a playable character, or he's like...
No, but just, like that's what it's like.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I love that. I like when Atreus went to Midgard by himself to confront Freya, and she's like, "You're lucky that I don't kill you, but it's your dad that I want." And like Atreus sort of having the balls to be like, "No, like I trust that she won't kill me," and goes and sees her by the fire, and then he sort of lets her go, and then but having that relationship sort of be rebuilt, because I really enjoyed Freya as a character in the first one, and she just as the game is all about Kratos and Atreus, but man, Freya she's in the game just as much.
She's just the main character, she's just as much as the other two. Like, well, she's in the final fight.
Yeah, like you're right. Yeah, she is a main character. Like I kind of wish she was on the front cover or like with all the art, because it's not just those two. The voice actor plays a massive part and does a phenomenal job. Absolutely phenomenal job. And yeah, so but yeah, having Brok and Sindri be characters as well, especially when you run off as Atreus, and having Sindri coming with you and having their little relationship dynamic and exploring together.
I really enjoyed that first time. I'm like, it's bloody Sindri. He's the enabler of Atreus to be like, a mischievous jerk.
Yeah. What about? I'm not sure. That's the thing. There's so many things that I've just been bursting to talk to you about over the last couple of months, holding all this in.
You did mention like the game the game has serious Zelda vibes. I don't know if that's right, but like exploring, right?
Yeah.
Exploring is so fun. Like I love adventuring and exploring, and the level design of the game is incredible because the best level design dangles that carrot right in front of you, and the amount of times you walk into an area and you see a treasure chest, like in the distance, you're like, I want that treasure chest. I need it, right? Doesn't matter what it is, like you want it, and then you're like, I can't get to it, and then you keep exploring the level, and then you sort of back on yourself, and eventually you find that chest you saw at the start that was like 15-20 minutes ago, and like that feels as like a gamer, like that feels so good, right? Just like and it just wraps, the way it wraps around itself, it's like and not too many of the puzzles repeated themselves or anything like that. I think
I just feel like
I think the first game was very much like, we got the frost axe, you freeze things, but it didn't felt that way too much here.
I just feel like this game is so much more like, not that the nuts and bolts on the last one were loose, they were tight. Like 2018, everything was tight, but even in this one, everything's even tighter and even more polished and just balanced so well. Like with the puzzles, if I'd look for a chest for like a minute and be like, not too sure, I'm just gonna sort of progress and maybe there we go, and just have the answers be there. Or even with the director mentioned with the ravens of the first one, he was like, look, we didn't want to make them super easy, but we wanted to make them easier than the first game. And I think in the first game I would have gotten probably less than half the ravens by the time I was done, and with this one, by the time I was done, what was there, like 58 ravens or 48 ravens? 52. 48, yeah. By the time this one
48.
By the time this one was done, I think I had like 43, 42 maybe. So I only had
the ravens were definitely always in your path of walking, right? Like they are there, and the game wants you. You're right. The game wants you to get them all. Compared to the first game, where they're really in the distance, like really in the distance, you have to like really throw your axe, like aim your axe just like 2 notches higher, charge throw to get it. This time they were like, here's the raven, or the raven's here. You can't get it. You're just gonna have to wait till you come around this other entrance till you can attack the raven.
And some of them they're super, like very very easy to get. They can be like 2-3 meters away from Kratos, but it's more just like walking past them and hear it, like listening for that, and then you're like, oh, where, and then it's like right, like you've walked through a doorway but you haven't looked up or something, and so you hear it and there it is. But not even just the difficulty of the puzzles and the ravens, but what did you think about the overall difficulty of the game? So I guess I'm more mentioning the Surtr Pits and the Gravestones and the Valkyrie.
So the Surtr Pits, they were like the sort of semi-lava-ish monsters.
Yep.
I can't quite really remember.
6 of them. Yeah, 6 of them.
I think they were fine. I remember a lot more in the first game. There'd be like a purple enemy frequently in places, not the realm tears.
Okay.
Just like a purple enemy. You're like, whoa, okay, man, can I take this on? I thought the difficulty was spot on. There was the gravestone enemies. They were definitely challenging, but I think the first 3 I came across, I did them. And there was quite a few others, but I'm like, no, you know what? I'm just going to come back once I've done XYZ or whatever.
Yep.
And I felt like, obviously they're still very hard. I think maybe it was only 1 or 2 I would have done on the first go.
Yep.
But you could do it, right?
Yes.
Like, even if they were like too tough, like, you're like, no, I can do this. And that, is that feeling as good as an Elden Ring boss? They are, right?
Yeah.
But you can do it. It doesn't feel too cheesy.
Yeah.
And I think if I was full health and it took 3/4 of my health and like 1 or 2 punches, I'd be like, I'm not ready for this. Like, obviously I need better armor. Like, I'm not going to torture myself. I want to come back.
Yeah.
Every single realm tear, I did. As I saw it, I did it. I'm like, you know what, I can do this. Yep. I can do it. And, I would die quite a few times, but like, I knew I could do it.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree with you more. The Surtr Pits, I think each one of them took me like, maybe some I got the first go, some I got the second go, some I got the third go, but they were sort of pretty doable, pretty easy. Same thing with the realm tears. But yeah, the gravestones, I did the exact same thing. I'd start it and be like, 2 hits and I'm down to no health, like this much health. Like, I think this is maybe a comeback later type thing. Do you reckon it's because we played 2018 God of War that we know where we should, like, what level of power we should be at, or do you think it's because we played Elden Ring earlier on in the year that we're like, oh, this is a comeback later scenario? Because I think my brain was still hardwired to Elden Ring to be like, I'm not ready for this. I'll come back. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I agree with you there. The game's very much like, oh, cool, we've done the story beat, Dad. Oh, do you want to go explore some more? Like, we've still got XYZ in this location to do.
Yep.
Do you want to go do that?
Yeah. Like,
the main story can wait. I'm like, okay, the game wants you to re-explore, or like, I'll go back. Yeah, I think it was good balance. The final two bosses, the Gravestone King and the Valkyrie, the new Valkyrie Queen.
Yep.
The Valkyrie Queen, I didn't have too much trouble with. I died a few times, but it was doable. The Gravestone King, I died a lot, but like every time I died, I'm like, again, I know I can do it.
Yep.
Like, I know I can do it.
Yep. I think I was the same. The last Gravestone, I did in maybe like 4 or 5 goes, but the Valkyrie Queen took me probably 15. I reckon I died to it 15 times, and it was just. And when I did beat her, I had the tiniest bit of health left, and she had a little bit, and I'm just like, I just have to hit her like 5 more times and try not to get overconfident. And
Nick, here's a question for you. Like, the game's really generous with its checkpoints and restarts, right? So if you die, you come back with full health, and I think even sometimes maximum rage. And if you had a revive fairy, what are they called? Fairy? I don't know.
Revive stone. Yep.
The thing that revives you.
Yep.
If you had one before the fight,
you
would restart the fight with the thing.
Yep.
The amount of times I'd be like in one of those Gravestone fights and I didn't have one.
Yep.
And I'd be like, no, I can do it. And so it would take me 2 minutes to go to the shop, buy the revive stone, and be able to win.
Yep.
But I was just always too lazy or too stubborn to do that.
Yeah, I was too stubborn. The amount of time, I did the exact same thing. I'd be like, oh, there's a Gravestone. I'll give it a go. And I'd get him down to half health and be like, I can do it without getting the resurrection stone. And then I'd die like 2 more times and be like, oh, I'm just going to go to the shop. I'm just going to get the resurrection stone, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to smash this piece of crap. And so sure enough, I go buy the stone, come back and beat him straight away. Be like, oh, damn it. Stupid stone.
All right, another question for you, Nick.
Yes.
That you don't have on here. There was 3 versions of Rage. One that would just give you a big health boost.
Yep.
One that would do a lot of damage to the enemy and give you a slight health boost, but only if you killed an enemy. And another one was the pummel.
Yep.
Which one did you use the most, or which one did you like?
I used the health regen one the most. I used that one for once I got it. As soon as I got it, I used that for the rest of the game. So what, like 5-6 hours in, I use that for the rest. I tried the other ones a couple times, and I was just like, no, I like, and then getting a bunch of health back. Especially once you upgraded it, you got enough health that I was like, this is great. But I'm getting the impression you used a different one.
Well, I stopped using the health regeneration one once you got the
third one,
the attacking one,
right?
But then because of these boss fights, you're not killing the enemy, so you don't get any health back. So I switched back to the rage one because to me, the rage one is much more fun because, with the health regeneration one, if you didn't time it right, if the enemy attacks you, you still got damage, but then you got your health back, right?
Yep.
So you weren't invincible, if that's right, unless you timed it right. You'd still take damage, but you'd recover. So I found that frustrating. With the normal pummeling rage one, I found it the most fun because I'm like, cool. Doesn't matter what level of health I am now invincible.
Yeah.
I can now punch all the Gravestone enemies. I can spam the stun arrows.
Yep.
And so I'd slowly gain health back. I'd be invincible, and I would stun the enemy until their stun meter builds up, and then they'd lose a chunk of health.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the most fun.
Okay.
For the bosses, anyway.
I think for me as well. So another reason I use I think the middle one was because it was called, I don't know, the Stone of Valor or whatever it was. So the first one was Wrath, and then I think the middle one was Valor, and it just I liked I didn't want to be wrathful. I was like, all this,
I get
like
that.
all of this rage is behind Kratos. Now we're about being the good guy. And so I didn't want to use that one just because it was still rage and wrath. And I'm like, no, he's evolved as a character beyond this, and that's why I don't want to use the rage one. So that was another.
Well, what about when did you like using the wolf as Atreus?
Oh, I loved using the wolf as Atreus. Yeah, Atreus. You keep saying Atreus. It's Atreus.
Atreus. Yeah. Maybe I think of Atrium.
Maybe Atrium.
I'll just say Loki.
I don't know. But I loved being the wolf as Atreus, and but I want to get to that whole. I want to talk about the giant section, where you fight the granny. I want to talk about Ragnarok.
We can do that, and we'll take a break after that. I think, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah,
we got 3 minutes.
Take a break now.
We can talk about the granny.
No, we'll talk about.
Talk about the granny.
Okay. What do you think of that whole
You can do that,
that whole section? Because I thought the Jotunheim section, like I said,
it was really
it dragged on for a little bit long, and then you get to the house, and it was really cool.
The granny fight was great. I like the whole. The grandma was really hanging out on Angrboda as well. Like, your story is ending because you've told Atreus, what to do now, and like you're out of the picture. I'm like, suck it, bitch.
And Angrboda's arc.
Fighting the grandma was great.
Yeah, but even Angrboda's arc, how she's like, my story. She's seen the prophecy, and she's like, my story ends after this. Like, I guess I just sort of sit here. And Atreus is like, no, come help us. Like, if Ragnarok's happening, come join the fight and like come back and she's like, well, I'm not in Ragnarok. Like my story ends, and then she rocks up and helps, and she brings Big Doggo.
Yeah,
and I loved that whole section. But my favorite, I think one of my favorite parts of the story or the game overall was the snake and the giant, and the fact that it's what's the big snake in the lake of Nine.
Oh, I can't remember. I've watched the whole video on this today too. I can't remember it.
Really? But like the snake that he puts the giant soul in is the big snake that wakes up in the Lake of Nine that you see in the first game.
Yeah.
It's because you see him in this game, but he gets locked in Midgard, so he's not actually part of Ragnarok.
Jörmungandr or something. Jörmungandr? I can't say.
But
Midgard serpent.
The serpent. Yeah, we'll say it, the Midgard serpent. But I love the fact that you put the giant soul into the snake in Grandma's house. That's the one that becomes the serpent, joins you in Ragnarok, and then Thor punches him so hard that he goes back in time and gets stuck into the Lake of Nine. And then that's when you it's like you run into him in the first game. And that's why he's like,
it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, he knows who Atreus is.
In the first game, in the first game, he goes, "Oh, Atreus, you're familiar." But then the theory was he got punched back in time so far that he's sort of forgotten who Atreus is.
So, I thought that was my favorite part, or one of my favorite parts of the story is that snake and the fact that was the serpent that joins you in Ragnarok. But I want to talk about Ragnarok, so what do you say we talk about Ragnarok after these messages?
All right.
Yeah, okay. Gatorade.
Spotlight, Nick. You just sponsor my
Spotlight. Spotlight now. We'll be right back. And we are
back.
Nick,
we're going to talk about Ragnarok.
Yes, I want to know what you thought of the last mission. So not just once you get to what's the realm?
First of all, you go to Muspelheim, and then you find Surtr, and then you stab his icy heart, his wife's icy heart, with your flame chaos blades.
Yep.
And that's the whole spark of the world. I don't know. It's kind of like, man, what the hell's inside this hellfire world? It's the start of the world.
But also, did you? I was having some big flashbacks to Thor Ragnarok, the movie. You know, like Surtr at the end as he destroys. Destroys the Golden City. Like it just destroys Asgard, and that's the same Surtr that prophesied to destroy Asgard and Ragnarok.
The same sword into the heart of Asgard.
Like love that was a thing, but I love that you took it back to that and mentioned that scene. Meeting Surtr was really cool, and that was another cool character that didn't get a whole lot of screen time, but cool battle with the Valkyries. But the part that came to mind that I wanted to ask you about was when you go to Midgard and you're on the bridge, and then you go like into your tents and everything just before Ragnarok there. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, so are you talking about the dream sequence?
Yeah,
Not even talking about that?
Oh, yeah, the dream sequence, but just the scene, like, Atreus gets his own tent, and he's like, I get my own tent, and she's like, and Freya's like, yes, every warrior gets their own tent, and then even though he's, the whole game has been about him trying to grow up and be a man and be sort of looking after himself and being stronger, you still see that in that moment, he's still a teenager, he's still a boy, he still loves his dad, and he's still nervous and scared, and he's like, I want to go hang out with Dad for a bit, and crawls into his tent, and he's like, Dad, can you tell me a story? And like Kratos
he falls asleep.
Kratos' evolution as a character of just being this grumpy old man to who he is by the time Ragnarok comes, like back to being a general, to being the god of war, to like blowing the horn and leading everyone to Ragnarok. I just have chills. Like, what do you think? It's like, tell me about that, because I
actually thought I enjoyed the Ragnarok battle sequence, right? But I kind of thought everyone else is doing cooler stuff than I am. Like you're going around the bottom of Asgard, looking at all the cooler stuff that's happening, right? Thor's fighting the world serpent. What's the doggo's name? Fenrir's Gale. What is it? Glar? What's the I don't know. Fenrir is doing cool stuff, attacking stuff. Like, you're just the little guy. Like, you're not transformed like a transformed giant doing anything really cool. You're just fighting other enemies. But
and like Surtr's off in the distance, it's really smashing stuff, and
yeah, you can just see him there. Like, and it's always funny in those parts of the games. You're like, cool. Obviously, you never come back to those areas, right?
Yeah.
But you're just like, in my mind, oh, should I keep going forward? Or should I like stop and explore? Is there a treasure chest?
No,
I need to be on the lookout for.
No, I knew it. I knew once Ragnarok started, I was like, "There's no treasure chest here. This is all just like, it is game on. It is they're going to war." And I think one part that I loved in this is, I don't know. Sometimes you get taken out of things and like, oh, yeah, it's still a video game, because you see Thor fighting the world serpent, and you're just like, I'm going to sit here and just watch. I'm just going to take this in for a minute. And
yeah, I watched for a bit.
And yeah, you stay and watch for like 30 seconds, and I'm like, but because of how the game is, I didn't want to watch until the point that it started looping, or when you talk to a character and they're like, I don't have anything more to say to you right now. I don't have anything more to say to you right now.
There was a couple times actually where you'd like eavesdrop on characters.
Yeah.
And like before the story sequence had sort of happened, and it'd be like, oh, did that just loop? And like, of course it has to loop, because it doesn't always know what point you're going to come in on them listening, or you yourself are going to start listening, right? You can probably hear it in the background.
Yep.
So, yeah, but the same thing. I didn't watch until any of the Thor or World 7 animations loop. I'm like, oh, wow, that's neat. And you're right. I didn't sit there and linger too long.
Yeah, I didn't linger either. It has that sense of, like, man, that is awesome. All right, but I've got a job to do. And I felt this sense of urgency, and like this sense of desperation, and just the music in that section, and the way it all just evolves with then Thor coming in, and you have fighting Thor, and what's Thor's daughter? Like, she was a great character as well.
Through it.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
I actually thought the Thor fight was great, right? But it wasn't as epic as the starting one.
Oh, really?
I was kind of hoping for like some more jumping around locations or something.
Right. Okay.
It was just it was grounded in the one spot.
Okay. I mean, I guess I can see what you mean. Did you think at any point that we might pick up and try and wield Mjolnir at some point? Did you think that might?
No, actually, you know what? I didn't. Not one time. I was very. We haven't even talked about the Draupnir spear.
Yeah, no, we'll get there.
I like the spear.
Yeah, I love the spear.
No, I didn't actually. I felt maybe that would be like you'd think about that too much. Nah, didn't even cross my mind.
Really?
Nah.
Because I thought once the game started, I was like, okay, well, we already have two weapons. Are they going to give us I was expecting a third weapon through the game, and I'm like, I reckon if I kill Thor, I'm going to get that hammer, because you look at how detailed it is.
The hammer's too close to the axe, though, I think.
I don't know, but you look at
the whole recalling thing.
Yeah, true. But you look at the detail in the hammer and all the runes and everything engraved on it, and just the power that it has behind it. I'm like, man, I want to wield that hammer. And I really thought we were going to get it. But instead...
yeah, keep going.
Instead, we get the Draupnir spear, which I don't know if you want to jump to that, but what do you think of the spear?
I was thinking about the dwarves, right? Like, why is it in fantasy world dwarves make these amazing weapons and technology things, but they don't wield any of them?
Because they're too small.
But they're just always excellent craftsmen.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I don't know. I just thought it was funny. The whole spear journey to get the ring, to go with Brok, to get it forged, to the blessing. I'm like, I loved that whole thing. I thought that was really great.
Loved it. Yeah. From when Sindri like drops down in the little well and he picks up and he's like, here's the ring, and I'm like, what the hell is this? That's not a weapon. It just looks like the goblet in Harry Potter that just keeps multiplying all the time. Like it's like with this, and then they're like, no. Well, once we combine this ring with the spear, it will multiply spears, and you can throw as many as you want. I was like, oh, that is so cool. Like that. By the end, the spear was my favorite weapon. Like I was done. I'd throw the axe.
Spear was. I wish I brought a prop. Just go.
Yeah,
when all the spears explode.
Yeah, the spear was my favorite weapon by the end. I'd trust that.
Did you notice, Nick? Whenever you leveled up the spear, it didn't level up the strength of the spear or your attack.
It was the number of spears. No,
it was just also the number of luck.
Oh,
your
right.
Luck went up.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know if I paid attention to that, but especially the rune moves where you like toss one spear up and it drops like 10,000 spears down on the enemies, and you just like,
and then you go
bam, bam, bam. You just keep exploding them. Or when you do like a whirlwind and it shoots out a bunch of tornadoes from the spears, and it's like, oh man.
I love when you were just fighting like boss enemies, right? And you're just fighting with the spear, and you're like, oh, they've got all these things sticking out of them, and like, oh, it's because every time I've attacked them, I'm like, yes,
yeah,
explode.
Oh, I loved using the spear, especially I found it super handy in the gravestone fights when they go to charge up an attack, and like, oh, he's got a spear in him, and they'd be like, they'd be stunned from the spear.
The amount of gravestone fights where it's like, okay, I've nearly lost all my health, they're nearly dead. I'm just going to spam spears, spam arrows, and then just go bam.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing. Like we haven't talked about the spear really at all, but I loved it. I loved it more than the axe. I love it more than the Chaos Blades.
I'm so glad it wasn't a sword.
Yeah, me too. But even just when he gets it and Brok's like, oh, do you know how to use that thing? He's like, well, I trained in Sparta, and every Spartan's first weapon, he learns to train with a spear. And it's just like, oh, of course. Like, I've seen 300. I know what you guys all train with. You all have spears. And
yeah, just the idea of unlimited spears with a like real world magical, well, not real world, but like a magical reason why the spears are unlimited.
Yeah,
like so good, so neat. Just so many cool. Seeing the spear go through all the enemies as well, like just. Yeah, you hold them, holding down, tear them in half in different ways.
Yeah. And was it like holding down R1 or R2 and you just keep just keep slamming spears into them?
I actually love the absorb as well. I'd use that quite frequently.
And like holding down R2 and it suck them in and shoot them back out. Oh, the spears.
Yes, once you powered that up, that was so much
fun.
Powerful. And that was really useful. Nick, that leads me to one of the Muspelheim trials is like get enemies like into the lava pit.
Yeah.
And you just use the wind blow thing from your spear.
Yeah.
Like made it so much easier.
Oh man, I wish I did it that way. I held down R2 with the axe then he like grabs onto him and swings him around and throws him. That's how I got him in there. But that would have been so much cooler using the spear. Oh, genius. It's disappointing.
When I redid the trials for the last half, that's what I did.
So, do we go into some parts that we didn't like about the game? Because I know you weren't.
Yeah, this is excellent time, Nick.
Yeah,
go. Or what? Do you want me to go?
Well, because I know I from the messages that you sent me, I didn't hate Muspelheim as much as you did, but I wasn't overly pleased with Muspelheim when I realized I was like, oh, I have to do the 3 trials 5 times in different orders. Like I have to do right, middle, left, middle, right, left. left, middle,
Did you
right,
look up a guide?
left, right, middle. No, I just kept it in my head.
Wow.
When they said you had to do
That's very...
yeah, when they said you had to do the trials in 3 different ways, I was like, oh, basic math. That's okay. I have to do it that many times, like 15 times.
I think... So in the Muspelheim areas, like, there was 3 areas with 2 trials each. And, like, that took me, like, a good hour, I think, the first time.
Yeah.
And then it unlocked more. And then I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, of course there's more. But I was like, I don't want to do more now. And I was just so fatigued from all those things.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you know what? I'll come back. And then figuring out the whole... do the trials you already done to make a different trial appear in the main area. It's just like it was so intimidating, or like just like, man, I don't want to do this. Yes. I'll come back.
Yeah.
And coming back later was fine. Like, it did take me 2 hours probably to do them all, but the gamer in me was like, cool. Each area has 3 trials to choose from. Some are over in like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Others take like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yep.
But I'm just like, okay, do I want to do the 30-second one again? Like, I want to get this done, but part of me was like, no, I should redo each of the other ones again to spice things up, even if they take twice as long. And then one time I lost. I was like, there was one area, I think you had to kill 20 enemies on a timer.
Yeah.
The timer would come down. Like, and it's not very hard. But I got 19, and I couldn't find the last enemy.
Oh, no.
Like, where is it? Like, I'm spamming Freya's arrows trying to find it, and I couldn't find it. And I'm just like, oh.
3,
like,
2,
this wasn't
1.
my fault. I didn't run out of time.
You ran out of enemies.
I ran out of time because I couldn't do it. I couldn't find the enemy. And I just felt like, oh. And then I just redid the fastest ones as I could. But all the super challenges, they weren't too hard.
Yeah.
I did them all first go.
I'm with you. Yeah, I don't think I had to do any of the challenge. I don't think I had to repeat them all, maybe more than once, because I think I had the same thing. I think I did the exact same thing with just the way we played, where I started doing the trials. And I'm like, oh, I have to do like left, right, middle, right, left. I was like, oh, I'm gonna come back later. I don't want to do that. And yeah, I very much was like, there was just a bit of sign. Not that, like, by the time I was done, I was like, oh, that wasn't that bad. But no, starting that journey and being like, I really don't want to do this. And it was the same thing. The biggest part of my gamer brain was just like, I really don't want to do this again, was when I got to the crater. When you're in, what was that realm? What realm was that? Vanaheim?
Vanaheim.
Yeah.
Yes. The crater areas, Nick, was just like... I felt what would have been better if that entire crater was post-game.
Yeah.
Like, just have it at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I felt... I know I've taken over here, but like, I was so fatigued of the Vanaheim area in general.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And cool, like, the story, I'm nearly at Ragnarok. I'm nearly here.
Yeah.
Like, the story, like, things are climbing up.
Big breaks.
And then you're just like, oh, here's this big crater area. Or like, oh, I should do this side quest that leads to the crater area. And I'm just like, oh my God, this area is... Before it even opened up, the area was so big.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, it's fine, but it sort of halted the game for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Because
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And because I've got to do it, I'm the gamer. Like, I can't leave it undone before I move on to the next thing.
Yep. No, I was exactly the same, because you're right. Like, it's right on the cusp of Ragnarok, and then you're like, oh, your friend might still be alive. Go to the crater and see. And then you make your way to the crater. And I remember looking at the map, and the map was like, you've completed 40% of Vanaheim. And I'm like, 40%? I've done, like, this area. All of the bottom half is, like, nearly 100%. What am I... Oh, my God. And then you go into the crater, and the crater's not just, like, one big hole. It's, like, you got the jungle section, you got, like, the desert section, and then there's, like a sink... I guess more of a crater section.
Sinkholes, they call it.
Yeah. But it was just a massive section filled with dragons, but then to pour salt in the wound. Oh. Yeah, to pour salt in the wound, the day and night thing. And I think that whole area could have been improved if Kratos could just go ding 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 and change it from night to day, but to have to go to a specific spot and then try and work out the maze of navigating that place, I was like, man, I was not having a fun time in the crater. By the time I got to like 80%, I was like, okay, I know my way around. I know where this is. I know where I know my way around. But when you start, it is massive, and I hated it. So,
you when you said like 5 hours, like, oh god, I've nearly done it in 2 hours, and then I've discovered the other areas, and I'm like, oh, right,
that's
cool.
what Nick meant.
Yes.
So
yeah, I think I appreciate the amount of game they added, but imagine if that was DLC.
Yeah, that's perfectly appropriate.
Would
DLC.
Would you be happy with that? Like
$10.
Like here's this whole area about Faye and her secret lifestyle of fighting Thor.
Yep.
Like that would have been like a cool. I think that would have been a cool thing.
Yep, I agree. Like, but I do it. That's the thing. I do commend. Was it Santa Monica Studios for making this game the same way they made the first one. Like, here's our finished product. It's the most polished and tightest, just best thing ever, and it's done. There's no DLC. There's no like season pass. This is the game. Go off and enjoy it, and that's what it is. Yeah. But I agree. Like that section should have just been maybe saved till post game, because I feel like it hit some massive breaks as far as the pacing went just before Ragnarok. And I mean that is on us. Like it is optional, but it had to be done. You know what I mean?
I think what would have been cool is if you did find the other lightning ice lightning thing, right? If you did see it, and it was sort of locked off until post game.
Yeah.
Like so you saw a glimpse, like, something's here.
Yeah.
But I just felt like it was just sort of, you're right, it just halted everything for me. What I listened on one of the other spoiler casts is it was like a side project of some of the developers or whatever, right? And they just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, wow.
Until they decided to include it in the game.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was, like a side project. I'm just going to quickly look through my topic list and like, is there anything that I want to... Heimdall. What do you think of Heimdall?
It's so nice to have a character to hate.
Yeah, right? Yes, right.
And he was so hateable.
He was so hateable.
It was great fun to hate on him.
Yeah, and
his stupid eyes and his cocky attitude, like you wanted to kill him. And watch his arm just get explode off. From the spear.
Yeah, his whole arc from start to finish, when you first meet him, like, oh, this character's a dick. And you're right, it's fun to hate Heimdall. And then when you meet back up with Atreus and Freya, and he's like, oh yeah, it's prophesied. Oh, you go see the oracles, whatever they were. Whatever they were. That scene was so cool. But when they prophesy, like, oh, and then you kill Heimdall, and he's like, I'm not fulfilling a prophecy. Like, we only do it. I'm only killing him because we have to. Like, he didn't really give me a choice. And then you fight him, and Kratos is like, it doesn't have to be this way. Stop. And he just keeps coming. And so you're like, all right. You just break him like a little twig.
Yeah, because I think there was two parts to that fight as well, actually. I think you do beat him and then you refight him again. It actually took me quite a while to figure out how to stun him.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, I know I've got to use the spear, but I think he catches the spear.
Yeah.
If from memory.
Yeah.
And you have to throw the spear near
the ground,
him and then explode them.
That's right, because it wasn't something
to hurt him.
I think it was because the way his foresight worked, if you threw them at him, it was something that was like directly affecting him, whereas if they were on the ground, it was just like it was the ground's future. It wasn't necessarily his future per se.
Yeah.
Well, it was something like that. And I thought that whole fight was really, really cool. Yeah.
The enemy and boss variety is like pretty insane. Like, you remember the first game, you just fight the same troll with different elements like 5-6 times.
Yeah.
Like this time, so many bosses were totally unique and so much enemy variety. Like,
yep.
And I remember seeing the first Phantom. I'm like, damn, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Like, and fighting. I guess you do get to fight the elves again. You do get to fight an occasional couple werewolves again, and just sort of the general grunts. But I remember there being like 20, 30 trolls in the first one. You're right, different element like fire troll, ice troll. I fought like 5 trolls throughout the whole game, maybe.
Yeah.
And the gravestones.
There was some in the post game with the stupid thing you tried to make me do.
The statues.
I did 2 of those. I'm like, nah, I'm done.
I think I did 2 as well, and I was like, oh, I don't need this. I'm done. So I had to make you do a couple as well. That's all that was. But you've gotten the travelers in your little topic list. What are the travelers? The travelers were in the crater. They were they were all over the game, but they were the fully armored heavy foes that you'd hit them and they wouldn't flinch or be stunned at all.
Oh yeah, they're cool. I like those.
Slowly chip away at their armor. Because and they were all
cool.
of
because I remember doing the bit, use their sword at the end to cut half their body off.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. But yeah, when you defeat,
I think a lot of attacks wouldn't stick in them because they had big armor as well.
Yeah. But they were all of the big guy that fell off the boat. They were all of his companions and brothers, and then they were all like entranced by evil magic or something like that, and fell to some sort of Jedi dark side. And so you go and free them all by slaying them, and so when you go back and talk to him after you kill them all, he's like, "Oh, thank you, I really appreciate you going to do all that." And so I think that's why I put the travelers in there, because I found them all and wanted to help him out.
What were you satisfied? Oh. You go, Nick.
No, I think I feel like you were about to ask me the same thing. How did you feel about Tyr?
Oh no, Tyr to me, I sort of maybe I wasn't listening, but I couldn't quite understand Atreus's obsession with trying to find Tyr, and Kratos was just like, well, my son wants to do this, I'll go along with it, right?
Right.
And then you find him, and like Tyr's just like, oh, I love peace. I'm a peace-loving guy. And I'm like, he's just a big weenie. Like, his voice didn't really, his voice was soft, right?
He had a lovely voice. He had a lovely voice. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just felt like he was a bit of a loser.
Yeah.
And then he didn't live up to Atreus's expectations. And then he just kind of, went away. Like, he's just like, oh, he's just someone in the house. Well, we sort of rescued him for nothing,
Yeah. I did like that whole arc when you finally find him, because he was, from all the murals that Atreus went to see, they're like, oh, Tyr's the one that he used to lead the giants, and maybe he could lead us to Odin and sort out Ragnarok and do all this sort of stuff. And then when you meet him, that scene where you walk into the cavern and like you get the god of war from Norse mythology and the god of war from Greek mythology, well, I guess the new god of war from Greek mythology, he walks over and they meet him, and Tyr just stands up, and he's
gigantic.
He's massive. Just towers over Kratos, and you're like, oh shit, this guy's gonna be boss. Oh, he's a big weenie. He's a massive weenie. Oh man. So just I think at one point you help him out, and he's holding like the blades of chaos as well, and you're like, oh shit. Oh no, he's a weenie. He's a mass weenie. But then, throughout the game, I still liked his... I loved his voice. I liked how supportive he was, and how he was trying to change his character, all that sort of thing. But then, he wasn't real.
It's all fake.
Holding onto that spoiler...
I looked up all...
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you looked up what?
I'm glad it wasn't spoiled for me, but I went and looked up... Like, there's all these YouTubes of Tyr slipping. And like the first time he meets Freya, he calls her Frigg, which is like, the pet name or alternative name or whatever. And he's like, I don't go by that name. Like, no, I've been going by that name for a long time. He's like, oh shit, my apologies. I can see I've upset you. I will go now.
Oh, right. I'm gonna have to watch a couple of those. Yeah.
So there's a couple of sequences like that. What I didn't really quite understand is he came up with his shield when there was all the realm tales from Gnam.
Yep.
The space dog.
Yep.
Hell dog.
Yeah.
Apparently he didn't really do anything, and one of the things is like, oh, I'm so sorry, I just went to grab a shield instead of grabbing a sword. Like, don't worry, next time
I'll
be ready.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And then, like, is he there the entire time? Is he only there when Odin wants to be him? Is he hiding in a broom closet? Like,
I don't know.
So obviously he knows everyone's entire plans.
Yeah, like
about everything.
Like, what a diabolical move from Odin that whole time. And you're right. I liked Tyr's evolution from when you meet him, and he's all like, no, I'm not going to war. I'm not going to lead you to war. I'm not even going to fight. I'm not going to pick up a sword. Killing is bad. And then sort of, just before he gets revealed to be Odin, you're like, oh, he actually, it sounds like he's like, oh, he might come with us to Ragnarok. He might help us out in a fight if we need help. Like, he might be prepared to do what needs to be done. And then it gets revealed that it's Odin. I remember sitting there on the couch being like, oh shit! And just, oh my god! And I ended up watching a bunch of YouTube reacts of other people being like, no! Like, who saw that coming? Like, did anyone?
No.
Like, who saw? Like, Tyr was such a great character, and like, oh no, it's just Odin, that diabolical motherfucker. Like, wow! I thought that.
So obviously you rescued Tyr in the post game. You rescued the real Tyr. In the post game, but it kind of felt like, even though everything you knew about Tyr to that point was fake, it felt like that was still his story arc, even with the real one. Which makes sense.
Yeah, I were you disappointed by that? The fact that it felt like the same character?
Yeah, like, because to me it was really hard to sort of disengage that. They were different people. Like, it felt like the real Tyr is still a big weenie.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Like, when I found the real Tyr, which I was not expecting to do, you find the real Tyr and it's like, oh, it's the same character. I was kind of hoping he would be ready for war or ready to, I don't know, be more of a god of war, but it was the same character, which felt like it just kind of fizzled out. Like, oh, Tyr is still Tyr. I guess Odin played his part well, but like, oh, okay. I kind of wanted him to be a bit different.
In that prison, I think you've watched a different spoiler cast than I have, but in that prison, you realise Odin has been keeping multiple people to be them, right? To transform as them or spy on people or whatever. And then there's a dwarf in there.
Oh.
And apparently the developer, the lead creator, was like, well, did you notice there's a dwarf when you're like in the river and there's like a bridge or something, before all the dwarves run away from their town, there's another dwarf that spits on you from a bridge.
Oh.
And he's like, That's Odin.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So go look up a whole bunch of YouTubes of of that after this, and like I just felt like, oh wow, like I didn't remember, but now that I rewatched all the YouTubes, I'm like, oh,
that's really cool.
Oh, wow, Odin's everywhere. He's always spying on us.
Yeah, not Odin's just ravens, not just ravens. Odin's spying all over the place. Wow, that's really cool. Next, I guess one of the hardest parts of the game. Brok's death. Brok and Sindri. Let's talk about Brok and Sindri. You go first.
Well, I love that they're full characters, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
Really fleshed out.
Yep.
I think we touched on before about how Sindri was the sort of enabler for Atreus, and sneaking out all the time. Again, I really liked Brok's whole arc of not having a soul and blessing the weapon Draupnir. I thought that was really good.
Yep.
I kind of wish you had even more time with Brok.
Yep.
But I think you probably actually did. Like the whole dwarf town. I think you were with him. Brok meeting his girlfriend or I don't know, lady dwarf friend.
Yep.
I thought that was actually kind of
cute,
really good.
Yeah, you just know that like him and his dwarf friend were getting nasty back in the day as well. Like you had weird little freaky dwarf sex, little gross weenies.
What I keep thinking, like, how powerful are dwarves? Like, they can just teleport anywhere, everywhere, all the time, right?
Was that just Brok and Sindri, or was it all of them?
You see them. Well, I guess maybe Brok and Sindri, but like there's multiple times where you watch them teleport, and I'm like, wouldn't Odin want to, capture that power?
And like
I guess he can teleport with ravens, but
yeah.
But like, why are they so special and awesome?
Yeah, you make a good point, and like just so great with craftsmanship. They can just grab an axe and be like, "Huh, sweet! It does 40 more damage now." But
I did like the funeral. The funeral was really touching.
Yes,
it was really well done. Like,
I'm glad you saved it till last.
Your advice, Nick, your advice to me was don't do that activity before you do everything else.
Yep.
And I had already gotten everything I needed for the platinum, but you need to get 100% in every area. You need 100%. I'm like, I did not need 100%. But now I'm so glad I can say you can't use that against me because I did 100% of everything.
Yep.
And then, the funeral was the last bit. Really touching, and then the real credits run.
Yes, which is that's was my main point, because when I did it, I still had the last gravestone to do, and maybe like one or two other little things, and the Valkyrie Queen, and I was like, I'm in the realm. I'll just go do the grave. I'll just go to the funeral now, and then the credits roll, and I was like, no. That was meant to be saved till last. And so the last thing I did was the frustrating Valkyrie Queen, and I wish I saved my last thing to be Brok's funeral.
They don't have they're great fights, but I feel like the story payoff isn't quite there, is it?
No, it once I beat the Valkyrie Queen, I was like, oh, well, this is done now. I guess I'll just turn the game off. Whereas yours, it seems like it would have been a good closure of like, everything's done. I'm gonna go see Brok off. Credits roll, done. And I wanted that for you.
It was great advice.
But Brok's death. Did you see that coming? Did you think anyone would die in the game?
Definitely not. I think if Sindri died, I think it would have been even sadder. But they sort of like, you're like, oh no, he was real, yeah, it was good. I liked it.
But what about, okay, so I guess the part I wanted to get to more...
But then he's already dead, right?
True.
He's already died once.
True, I guess, but the part I wanted to get to more was how Sindri is after Brok's gone. Yes. Like, man, he really...
Yeah, he's real mad.
He is, like, Kratos level rageful. When he rocks up at Ragnarok and he's just...
See how filthy his armor is at the end too?
Yeah,
he doesn't want to be clean anymore.
He's just mad. Like, and he, Sindri, can you take down this wall? So, wall crushes and like, oh, Sindri, this thing's taking down our realm doors. Can you smash them? Yep. He's like, no more dwarves are dying for your shit. And oh wow.
Yeah, I really like that.
And yeah, for the funeral where he's just like, I can't remember what line he says, but even at the funeral, he's still just like, this is something. He's like, oh, this is all your fault, or like, I still hate you guys, and I blame you for everything. Or even when they seal Odin in the sphere, and they're like, well, what do we do now? And he's like, I know what to do. Like,
see, he just teleports in and out whenever he wants.
He just grabs the orb and he just smashes it because yeah.
I was kind of worried that mean the soul would go to someone else.
Well, maybe I'll save that for God of War Rebirth or something.
Clearly not.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you think of his personality switch? Do you have any more to say about that? Because that really,
I really enjoyed it. I think death changes people, right? Like it really does, and you don't like people don't know what to say or do.
Yeah.
To someone that's had someone that's really down, like, oh, sorry if you lost, like you will never understand my loss.
Yeah.
And it's awkward, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen it in other people, and they've totally changed, and you don't really know how to help them. Like there is no way, there is no right way to do anything. Like,
and especially,
but unlike Freya. Who's practically in love with Kratos at the end. Well, they're not. But
yeah,
I'm glad they didn't. Glad they didn't go that way. But it just felt like you killed my son. Thanks for everything.
Yeah, but the discussions that they had between Kratos and Freya from when they first start working together to the end where she, halfway through the game where she finally forgives him and is like, look, I don't know if I can ever really forgive you for this, but I understand why you did it. Like you were trying to save. Kratos is like, you were my friend. I was just trying to save you. Yeah, he didn't give me a choice and all this stuff. And like, man, that's such great evolution. And I that's the only thing that I hate that's unfinished with this game is I felt really awful knowing that Sindri feels the way he does and that he just hates you guys now. And I hope that whether it's DLC or Atreus gets his own game or there's another God of War in a couple of years, but I really hope that forgiveness comes around because that's the only loose end for me that I'm like, fuck, that hurts. Like, that's a painful loose end that I look at and I'm like, Sindri, I'm really sorry, man. Like, we didn't want Brok to die. Like, no one wanted Brok to die. It was all Odin's fault.
See, and the thing, It's like Mimir and Freya, like all their hatred can come back down to Odin.
Yeah.
Right? Odin is the terrible person that does all these things.
Mm.
And what we haven't really touched on, when you're in Asgard, right?
Yep.
I think Thruid's like talking to Atreus. It's like, oh, you mean the bitter ex-wife? Of course, the bitter ex-wife's going to say bad things. Or you mean the general, whatever Mimir was to Odin? Like, you mean like his general advisor who ran away? Like, of course he's going to say bad things about Odin.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, is Odin that bad? Like, he is and he's not. But like, you sort of see different sides of things.
Like, oh, you got I completely agree with you. Yeah, two sides to every story. Yeah. Yeah, you make a solid point. I don't know, but because I guess we're kind of indoctrinated from the first game that like Odin's a dick, Odin's a jerk, Odin did this, Odin did that, and even the start of the second game, Odin's a jerk, Odin's a monster, and so then you meet people who live with him and have grown up with him, and like she's grown up with him, and she's like, oh, he's granddad, like he's nice, he looks after me. But you see, like, I guess because we know who he really is, we see through those kind of cracks, and it's hard because I imagine her growing up and seeing him just as grandpa and him being nice to her the same way he was nice to Atreus and be like, oh, you can come and go from Asgard as you please, that's fine, just don't take the mask with you, you can't take the mask, you can't take the sword.
How brutal was it? Like, oh, Atreus, you're staying in it was either Baldur's room or the Thor's other kids.
Like, you're like, oh,
I can't remember which one, but like that's it, you're staying in those rooms with the people you met.
Watch out for ghosts. Great. Well, Jeffrey, I think we're coming up sort of on the end here. We've got
2 minutes, less than 2 minutes left. I think, should we wrap it up?
Do we have anything else you want to add? Do we want to go more? Do we have more we want to add? We've got 10 minutes still. Maybe we could get some stuff in about the voice acting. I really want to talk about the sound design and how it changes when you go into caves or tunnels and how it echoes and reverberates off walls. I thought that was great, but...
well, if you want to keep talking, Nick, let's come back after these messages.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe we'll come back, and even if it's just 5 or 10 more minutes. But I'm not quite ready yet, so we'll be right back. And we're back after our second break. It really is a testament to just how good this game was, isn't it? I could see. I think it's been great conversation, and we've both been very excited, but there's still so much more that we could talk about for ages. How long did it
take you to get the platinum?
48 hours.
How long did it take you to get the platinum? 53.
Oh, 53. Oh, that's no good.
You beat me.
Just. Yeah, I don't think I was really rushing. I feel like I really took my time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the actual ending of the game. So, cool. Ragnarok happens.
Yes.
Odin's essentially dead.
Yes.
And then the credits sort of happen. Like, what do you think of the whole Atreus walking through the credits?
Oh, I loved it. Like when you walk up to that last mural and what's her name? Angrboda. Angrboda opens it up for you, and you see your story again, just like when you get up to the mountain from the first game, and you see your story and everything you've been through, and then Atreus is like, Dad, like, I have to go off on my own now. There's more things that I have to do to rescuing some of these giants and finding the rest of these balls, and I have to go off on my own now. But I remember our promise. Remember, and the promise was like, if we're ever stuck and we're not sure what to do, just think of the other person's voice in their head and what they would say and what they would do. And so I could totally see a single-player Atreus-only game that still has Kratos in it, but more just as like a voiceover. It was like, son, remember this.
Miles Morales.
Yes, yeah. We get a phone call from Peter Parker every now and then, be like, hey, how you doing? I just remember this. But then Kratos walking...
Dad just calling me through the realms.
But then Kratos walking to the other side of the mural and having... can we talk about his wife and just their story and how... somehow she knew everything that was going to happen.
Faye's got more secrets than anybody else.
Faye's got the most secrets. Man, that girl. And I love that it was the chick from True Blood or Daredevil or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever show you want to know her from.
Wasn't Jesse? No. True Blood for me.
But I love that character, and it was great to see her in that role. Like, what did you think of that whole Kratos and the wife? and Faye.
I really enjoyed those bits. Did you see Faye in the first game? I can't really remember.
Absolutely not. No, she was not in the first game.
I felt like that there's a trope about like women in media is like, oh, you've got a wife, she's dead in the freezer. Like the start of the game, like the woman is dead.
Oh God!
So I'm glad she got a what probably it's often portrayed like the female is already dead to make the male story happen or make the male story have character or feeling.
Oh right,
and
okay.
His feeling is my wife is dead, but so I'm glad she got some real screen time or air time as well, and like a whole bunch of mystery added to her as well.
Yeah,
and like there was never really a confirmation, really, was there about it? Definitely was Faye and Thor fighting. Like it's just sort of implied.
No, it was definitely Faye. Yeah, Faye fighting Thor with the axe. Yeah,
I felt like I felt like the ending wasn't quite there. I feel like there should have been a little bit more, and then even in the post game, which I really liked the post game and seeing other characters in the world. Like you saw through it get Mjolnir, and like there's a couple other segments.
And you see Tyr wandering around.
They get a little bit of closure. Yeah, like you interact with these characters, not in a story cutscene, just in a world, world interactivity or whatever. But even the post game, I felt like, oh cool, I saved all the fallen pieces of Asgard, or I saved the Gravestones, or the Valkyrie Queen. Like, I just felt like there should have been like a little bit more closure in some of those things, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Especially the realm tear stuff. Like, oh cool, the very end of the game, Kratos is like, there's much to do, there's much to repair, much to rebuild, or whatever.
Yeah. And
then you go and you save, or not save, but like, do all those activities, and then it's not really a big payoff.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean, because that's why I thought. Yeah, I totally get what you mean, because when I attended Brok's funeral, I didn't think that would be the last thing. I thought, you said, Kratos he's like, oh, the realm has to be repaired. I thought I'd go and do everything, and then they'd be like, I thought maybe he'd go chill at his house and sit down and grab, a beer or something, and just be like, now I can rest.
Well, how did you go? I went back to the house multiple times during the story, and nothing really happened.
No, I don't think so. Although I don't think I remember at the end of the first game, you have the return home, and then it has the epilogue of Thor showing up. But I don't think I did that in this one. I don't think there was an objective to go home.
No, there definitely wasn't. And I visited home, and I visited Freya's house as well a couple of times.
Get that plant.
When you come back with Freya, she even says, "Oh, I need to get someone to look after the giant turtle thing."
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
But I guess I thought, oh, there'll be a story quest for this, and I didn't find anything.
Yeah, I could totally see there being a mission,
and even like
a DLC mission that has
like the 9 flowers.
Yeah,
the flowers from every realm. Like nothing really happened.
Yeah, I agree. And same thing with I guess kind of the cookbook as well. Kind of the recipe. You just kind of find them, and you hear a little bit of the story.
Well, Mimir just tells the end of the cookbook story.
Yeah.
What's like,
it's nice.
Reading behind all that, I'm like, oh.
It's nice. But yeah, I could totally see the turtle getting transported to Jotunheim and being another one of Angrboda's pets or something like that. And being friends with the big wolf, or, something like that. But
wolf and a turtle, nice combo.
I don't know, they're both giants. They both be friends. And you still have the world serpent. So,
but no, you had a whole bunch on this. We haven't really touched the combat, Nick. You talk about sound design. You've got that on one of your lists.
Well, I really wanted to talk about the sound design just because I noticed it a lot. I've been noticing a lot lately with my surround sound system. Just I'll hear little crackles on the left from the left speaker. I'm like, oh, what's over there? And I'll turn the character around and be like, oh, there's that, something coming from over there. Or there's something coming from over there. Or I'd hear something above me just because of the way the speakers are orientated. But what I thought was really impressive was if someone was behind a door, how the sound effect was always muffled, or then I'd open the door and you'd hear everything become clearer, or you'd be kayaking and you'd go through a tunnel or a cave and you'd hear the sound change. And I was like, was that just for that moment? And so I'd turn the boat around, go back through, and like, no, they've got some sort of filter that activates when you go through a tunnel or through a cave or something like that to affect the sound design. And I was like, that is just
Nick, you should definitely watch Sakurai's videos on game development, because he actually touches on that kind of stuff all the time. Like, you think of the amount of video games where you've got someone walking, but now they're walking on carpet, now they're walking on grass, now they're walking on dirt, now they're walking on rocks, now they've walked through water. Like, there's so many variations of that like sound effect that they do. And I guess to me, I didn't really notice too much of those sound things, because to me that's a testament of how well it's designed. It just sounds natural.
Everything's just natural. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Did you use your headphones much? Do you use the headphones at all?
Yes, I played, like, if Andrew's in bed, I'll wear the headphones, the Sony Pulse ones.
Yep.
And yes, and sounds great. The the axe sounds are just so damn satisfying to me.
Yeah, well, I like the pop of the spear when you make them all explode like little fireworks. I thought that was great.
What did you think of, like, I haven't really talked about combat other than the spear combat. Like, what do you think of the axe and the Blades of Chaos? Like, just fighting general enemies and like the rune powers or realm powers or whatever.
Yeah, well, I kind of hoped going into this game that there would be a little bit more variation on, or a little bit more encouragement to switch between. And as an example, I'll give you...
There wasn't. Actually, I'm going to stop you. Like, in the first game, there was something that if you switch between the axe and the Blades of Chaos, there was a move that switched between them, and that was missing in this game.
Yeah, I didn't think it was. I was going to say, I don't think that was in this game. But I was more thinking along the realms of Ghosts of Tsushima. So there's like 4 different enemies in Ghosts of Tsushima, and if you know the way of stone, then you can take on these guys. If you know the way of water, or whatever the 4 different things it was, like each one was relevant to a specific enemy. There was like big dudes and little dudes, and ones with spears and swords and all. And so I thought, since you have 3 different weapons now, that there'd be enemies that are more tailored to. I mean, it was pretty much just fire and ice. I didn't really think there was much difference. I don't think there was much really to use with your fists as well. I mean, I really like stunning enemies. I really enjoyed that, and I think fighting with your fists would build the stun meter up. Yep.
But I just don't really recall a lot of encouragement to actually use that.
Yeah. I definitely used my fists a lot less in this one.
There was definitely the shield bash.
Yeah, that was cool.
The shield bash is the one I remember the most.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. But the combat, like, you can't really fault it. It was solid. It wasn't like there's games that do combat better, but this wasn't bad by any means bad.
Do they?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. Ghost of Tsushima was pretty great.
I love the feeling. No, I felt like Ghost of Tsushima got repetitive.
Yeah.
No, it was good. I felt like towards the end of the game, you become familiar with all the mechanics, right? So anytime there was a big boss fight, non-gravestone enemy, just a regular boss, you're like, okay, cool. Realm Power 1, Realm Power 2. All right, switching to Blades of Chaos. Realm Power 1, Realm Power 2. Switching to the Spear. Realm Power 1, Realm Power 2. Oh, use my L2 plus
circle
triangle power, whatever that power was. And, oh, cool, the timers have reset. Time to do it again.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, that was fun. I did enjoy. I know what you mean. I did the exact same thing with rotating through them and all the different. Can you remember your go-to runes for your axe?
For the Blades of Chaos, it was definitely the one who would whip around continuously.
Me too. Yeah,
probably like good 5 or 10 seconds.
Yep, me too. Yeah,
and then I think it was the meteor shower. Yeah. It was just 2.
Also me. Also me.
The axe was just like a Link hurricane spin.
Yeah, the whirling spin. Hold it down, you keep spinning.
And the other one, which I couldn't find anything better, but it was the one where he holds the axe up and it does like a big AoE attack for like 10 seconds.
Yep.
And it just sort of would pause all the bosses.
Yep.
The spear ones, I think I sort of gravitated towards the one that was just like the multiple stick jab one, and then the other one where it just does this big sweeping thing and then all the tornadoes come out with it as well.
Yeah, the spear art was the one I changed the most.
So they're the ones I sort of like. Every time I got a new one, I would try it,
Yep.
But eventually, like, those are the ones I remember using the most.
Yeah. I use the exact same ones as you. I did change the R2 of the axe a few times because the big tornado thing was I think its cooldown was too long, and so I used the one that was like a big ice area effect smashed into the ground, and it did a bunch of ice, which did a large ice area effect. But with the spear, I felt like I changed that one a lot between the tornado and the spears that rain down. Or the one that is like
the spears that rain down were quite fun.
Oh yeah, or the one that was like a straight up. You could be 50 meters away, and he'll do like this rushing charge to stab. Or the one you said that was like multiple stab.
I think I always gravitated because I needed them the most for the gravestone fights. I think I always gravitated towards ones that would do a mass amount of damage or a mass amount of stun.
Yes,
because I really liked stun. For some reason,
against
I would
the
always
bosses,
prefer to use the stun arrows over the hex arrows as
the elemental arrows.
I think they're called.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm with you. It's funny how I think we played a lot of the game the same way.
What was your favorite move? Your favorite normal attack?
Oh, I'd love running into a fight and starting it off with just a big R2 with the axe. Bam! And just smashing into him that way.
The run up.
Yeah, the run and R2.
The run up attacks were my last things to get filled.
Oh really? Oh, well, there you
go. Yeah, I'm like, oh, I've got to remember to do the run up attack.
Yeah.
What I do miss is, I felt like the first game had the big axe chop down.
Oh, yep.
And I felt like they took that away.
Yeah, that was my favorite one.
Felt that was on the reserve for R3 moves.
Yep.
But the big the start of the game was pretty much hold R2 to do that big axe chop swing.
Yeah.
That was really satisfying.
Yeah, I use that a lot too. Like, because it grabs onto the enemies and then throws them and does this. Yeah, what a great game. Well, I feel like I can kind of breathe. I've been holding all this in for months waiting for you to finish it. You've been stuck playing Pokemon.
I guess it's really good for me. Like, play a little bit, then I got really into it, got the platinum, done all the YouTube stuff, and then done this podcast. But like, God of War is done.
Yep.
Like, I don't need to play or think about it. Like, that's it. Like, game over.
Yeah, game over. And I really do think this is why it's a more game of the year than Elden Ring. Just because it's like, if you base it just on gameplay, Elden Ring knocks it out of the park and takes it home every day of the week. But when you look at all the elements together, like the characters, the relationships, the voice acting, the attention to detail with everything, like the evolution of characters, all the side quests, the collections, like every element of the game is just so highly polished and is maximum AAA quality. It just...
Yeah, like... I don't think there'll ever be... Unless there's God of War 3 or whatever. Like, well, you know what I mean? Like, no game even comes close to this level of polish. Like, was... the other Sony AAA title at the start of the year, Horizon. Like, does that even come close? Like, I know you didn't like it, but does that even come close to what this is?
Not even close. Not even remotely. I think I told you I think Horizon is a 5 out of 10, a perfectly average game at best. God of War is just it is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece of a game. It is just fantastic. Oh! I just remembered. I have so I told you about the one loose end that I'm like that needs to be tied up with Brok, but I've been wanting this end to be tied up since the 2018 God of War. When you go to Helheim, hopefully you remember this scene. You go to Helheim and you jump on the ship, and just before you leave Helheim, Kratos looks in the distance, and you see Zeus's head pop up through like some mist or smoke, and he's like, Kratos. And
I sort of remember that kind of stuff. Yeah,
And Kratos looks over and he says to Mimir, he's like, what is that? What is that place over there? And Mimir's like, oh, that's a place you never want to go, son. Like, that's a bad place. And I was like, oh, are we going to see Zeus at some point? I remember thinking that in the first game. And then when we went to Helheim again, I'm like, oh, are we going to see Zeus in some way, shape or form this time? And I felt like that was, to put that in there in the first game, have Zeus's head show up and be calling out to him from the afterlife in Helheim, and not have anything pay off.
Because I feel like the first game to the last game, right? Like, okay, this is definitely a continuation of all the other previous God of War things, right?
Yep.
God of War 2018 was definitely like, well, Athena was in the game, right?
Yep.
There was the sort of visions of Zeus, like you just spoke of. And this game didn't really have any big story tie-ins, like, to the previous games, except for story time.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I was going to say...
Story time is like, whenever you're on the boat. Oh, yeah. Hey, laddie, tell me that time you went to a big combat battle arena with magicians and, musical singing people. And Kratos is like, I will not speak of this. And that was like the time he was in Mortal Kombat or something, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes, I thought it was PlayStation All-Stars.
There was like... there's that too. There is like another section about must be the PSP games that I haven't played, about Kratos' brother. That's how he got his tattoos. There's sections about him and his daughter. Yep. I don't really. Did he have 2 kids?
I thought he had a wife and 2 kids from the first game, but I can't remember.
Yeah, but like there's a whole story time on that. Yep. There's all the story time of his previous battles or artifacts from Greece. Yep. Like talking about previous gods. Like, so it was all built into the sort of not cutscenes, but the story. Just general story time in between. You're traveling to locations about all his previous adventures. I thought was really, really great. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because you're right. Every conversation or anytime you were moving anywhere, they were sort of constantly talking and just. But it wasn't. It was all interesting, but also I didn't mind if I wasn't paying attention and missed some of it. If that makes sense, like it didn't feel essential, but it was just always just whipped cream and cherry on the cake that was the game. And I agree. All the story time bits. I was like, hold. We'll come back to this. Or Mamiya was like, "Oh, laddie, we'll continue this on next time." Yeah. And I'm just like, "Oh, but like, how much more of that story was left?" Like, I just kind of just keep talking to the last bit. Like, I know why they did it, but those lines would often get repeated. It's like, "Oh, as I was saying about blah blah blah," or Faye, what's her name? Freya. Oh, Freya, you were telling me about XYZ again? Like, yeah. Such great game design for that as well. Like, I don't know if it was a nightmare for them to do that type of thing, but it was cool. So cool. I remember talking to you about, like, does anyone, like, when you play as Atreus and Atreus is by himself, like, does anyone just not talk? And even Atreus, like, can't stop talking to himself. Yeah. And then at post game, when I've done everything, like, I've done it all. Yeah. Or actually, there was one time I'm like, I want to see if I can get back to the norms again. Yep. And I was with Atreus, and like the waves shut off, and Kratos is like, I wanted to show Atreus the Kelpie. Oh, right. The underwater horse thing. There was a story reason, or like they talked about why I was going back to this area. Like, how do they know? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's so like, Dad likes loot. Dad likes to collect loot. I love that line. It was like, where is your father going? Yeah, that's so good. Dad likes loot. But I don't know about you, but I'm all God of War out. I think I'm God of War out too, Nick. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Like and subscribe. If you haven't played God of War, leave a comment below. Yeah, but hopefully, I'm hoping a couple people listen to this that played the game and go, man, I feel like we really nailed the conversation this time, but I don't know. Let us know. Yeah, well, I think we should just we should title it like, game God of War game developer talks to 2 losers. Podcast to nobody. See if that gets the clicks. He's talking to us in my mind. But well, Jeffrey, it has been lovely talking to you, and hopefully I would like to maybe do a podcast about Pikmin next week, maybe. Oh, yeah, or 2023 games. 2023 games, yes, games coming out in 2023. Lots of things. I have an inkling, Nick, that there'll just be like some sort of announcement in a week's time. Oh, okay. maybe not a Nintendo Direct, just something.
Oh, okay. Maybe Spider-Man. I don't know.
You know, who wants to announce news at Christmas? January. Look forward to this in 2023.
January's the time. Oh well, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching. You can find us on youtube.com/Nick&Jeff or facebook.com/Nick&Jeff or on podcast services of your choice. Did I miss anything?
Love you, Nick. See you next time.
Love you too, Jeffrey. Bye.